Mom, I'm back, he saved me tears. Fall as human soul. Dire reunites alien queen. With lost dot. Rhine the shattered valley of the Zeronthier. Waist thick with smoke. And tension for Sivenda, Wisan Knight's queen, Alisera had. Searched for her lost daughter princess. Lyra, who had vanished during the brutal siege. Nothing but whispers remained. Some claimed the princess had fallen, others said she had been taken by a Karnex predators. When the queen lost hope, a human stood up. In a hostile galaxy, humans were and mostly ignored, but Corporal Evan Hales stepped forward, his armor cracked his me. Sown unclear except for on a burning vow hefo under he would bring her home, no matter what. He slipped into the dark zone as solo armed with nothing but grit and a half-broken translator inside. Karnex territory, the ground shook the air, he said, and the shadows moved. With watching eyes, Evan pressed forward through blow-dread mist until he heard a weak cry. It was the princess barely breathing. Rapid in Karnex chains, the sight stabbed his heart, his prom. Is ignited like fire, he smashes the chains, picked her up like a feather, and said in a calm V, "Ois, you're okay, I've got you." Closing in his Karnex predators charged, their jaws snapping, and the claws ready to rend. Ivan planted his feet and fought. Like a one, Manarme has struck like a blade of light, each's wing-yak shot had a purpose. Not for glory, not for war, but for a girl far from home. Honey Dedo, ne chance to live, hell imped through the caves with Lyra held tight, moving from shadow tosh, Ada with every breath turning into predet armination when the creatures cornered him. Attackli Fejeva Madete craziest decision of his life, he jumped with the princess in his arms. Trusted gravity, trusted hope, trusted the faith, then the rescue beacon saw them the QQN. Squads flew over the cracks and pulled both. Romthea by's desk slammed, doors burst open. And the moment Queen Alisara caught sight of her daughter, the world stopped. Lyra wept mo. "Mem back, he saved me." The queen collapsed. Token is her hands. Trembled as she touched her child's face. "Alive e safe home," Hurius lifted to the human soldi. He expected, anger or suspicion. But watche gav him washug so firman so fulla she wispy. "Red, thank you, even you brought their back from't." He did, he just smiled through blood and dust and muttered, "Just doing what Agnone would do, your majesty." But the queen knew the truth, not anyone would. Some were Saruman with armies, so me with courage. But this victory belonged to one soldier. Hor fused to let a lost girl back Omia memory, and in the anxious galaxy Ahuma, Name was written in legend, even Hales Tema and who brought the princess home. The Karnex warlord had fallen, but the galaxy felt no peace, for when the darkness lows sail, dare another hungry. Eroni always rises. Deep within the nebula for the Karnex Swarm recon, structed their armies vowing to crush the QN hair daughter and the human soldier. Huda read the challenge, ancient terror. Meanwhile, Ivan rested in Ahmed Bay, his body wrapped with treatment bands. With his will untouched, Prince S. Lyra sat on the stool beside him, her hand overing just above his shoulder, as if Shefe, arid touching would break him. "You almost Devon has smiled barely. That's like my favorite hobby apparently." She glared. "You don't ghetto joke when you scared me half dead." His laugh was even softer. "That's fair, princess." Outside in council halls, fear spilled like poison thatch, queen-faced generals who demanded the Huma and be exiled for his heritage, claiming he was a symbol provoking war. Alisara slammed their Don the table now high soldier, who saved my child not a burden. The galaxy owes him respect, not disgrace. At that same moment the dark alarm struck again. This one was different, lower, colder, like the sky itself had begun to scream. Ivan's hutter snapped, Himawake, he could feel it. The swarm was coming with forces no mortal had faced. Before he staggered out of the medical bay only to find Liran the Queen Bill walking his way. "You aren't in shape." Ivan shook his head. "Doesn't matter. I don't let you to fight alone ever again before their argument co ulde continue aboard shuttered and light van. Ished their city fell under shadow vastant. Trembling as the Karnex dread colossus deshe. In the its roar crushed minds, its presence poisoned air, the queen whispered, even her fear visible. "This is the monster myths," spoke of Ivan, positioned himself in front of the Maldes, pity his knees failing. Lyra grabbed his hand, her powers urging in her the way a star's flare before. "Death," she whispered, "together, he answered always." Then the final battle began. The sea Olossus unleashed a vortex of facet winds and spike projectiles, even Duckett rolled fired with desperation and talent that had no explanation. While behind him silver energy spire alids from Lyra forming a shield so pure that if gods looked down, these would be a moment o' silver frames. The queen commandeered the itai defenses, activating ancient turrets low. To history, their beams joining, the vital forgotten warriors rising again. But the Colossus was more. The shadow entity shifted forms, its mass splitting into and three multiplying with Raja even C. Jawan charged in not thinking, not surviving, just protecting Iklimbid its armly apt to its backans hoved, the last of his explosives, into its crystals pine. Then with own breath, he jumped holding a thing but faith, collapsed hitting Thager and hard as the explosion tore through Theb, east shattering it into thousands of black fragments. When Lyra caught him crying, "You did it," he whispered. "No, wielded." The queen knelt aside a theme, her hands over both heroes, and Gal Axis sparks swirled as if acknowledging their victory. In that sacred moment, the story of a human who saved a queen and her daughter Becca Melegende not, because he was away upon but Becca use he was shopen for the first time in Tega, Laxi the light pushed the darkness back. After their union the galaxy thought, the story was over, but destiny had other plans. Queen Alisara could not shake a feeling of darkness. SS Kilo singing, like a shadow without sound. The Karnex predators had not forgotten their humiliation. Their loss was unacceptable until he human who stole the princess from under the earfangs was away upon threatening their rank. Ian truly Evan Hales stood outside the royal sea. Itadale watching two moons rise, when a suspected figure approached. Princess Lyra Hervoy. She shivered, Yuri bleeding, even he shrugged. Blood justered, hope it was his hand not mine. He chuckled, but the fearing Harry's remained tea. He queen had assigned 100 guards to him, but Evan knew this tenacity was not over. The first strike came down Karnex commandos buerist through the skis like ink tearing across. The blue alarms, wailing citizens ran scattered and the stone walls rattled, even leapt into action, dragging Lyra and the queen into the secret lower chambers. Theoni suddenly their oil blood knew of Alisara gripped his arm. "Ugavim back, my daughter. I don't want to lose." You know, he shook his head. "Duty first, your majesty. I didn't save her just to lose her again." The rumble above groaned. Then cracked dust fell from the ceiling, and the stench of Karnexak ID filled the air. Ivandrawis blaster and stood between them and overwhelming darkness, when what they didn't expect happened. The princess, who looked fragile and quiet, stepped forward, her hands lit with silver fire, the ancient power of her lineage, something thought lost for centuries. She whispered, "I will not be ipid from my mother again, even ever thest." And our human looked her with shock but pride. Lyra only shed a shock wave ripping the flew, or blinding the predators for precious second ds evanas at the opening slashes of determination, cutting through enemy after enemy, and sometimes enemy after enemy cut through him too. Blood ran warm, but it didn't stop. He couldn't. Then came their leader, the Karnex warlords, shape vast like a nightmare and voice hissing sweet death. He turned high seas on the humans. "Old ear, so you are. They on the galaxy praises L. Etmesi why Evan thought that was a greet him for a really inappropriate smile. Hemmermur edimina be trilly. Butokailets, though this what followed was a battle beyond mortal and lega and the steel against Bonewill against the hate, when I tended only two beings, still stood even half asleep from loss of blood, and Lyra sparks earling around her like protective spirits. He warlord fell, but not before hissing, "This is not over. This is only the start." Ivan Sanctu Nekni, the queen, caught him crying, "Stop, you are not dying." He grinned, just resting majesty. He haved the galaxy to annoy later. The sky began to clear, but the threat was not gone. It was hunting them, and everyone knew they had just begun.